The book of Isaiah, chapters 28 through 35, the source of true deliverance. In studying this section, 1. To review the messages Isaiah delivered when Israel and Judah were being threatened by Assyria. 2. Note the condemnation for seeking help from Egypt when the people should have looked to the Lord for deliverance. The messages in this section, chapters 28 through 35, seem to relate mostly to the approaching calamities involving the Assyrian invasion. During the reigns of Ahaz and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, Salmanasar, king of Assyria, came against Israel to the north and took them away captive. See 2 Kings 17:1 through 18:12. In the 14th year of Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, sought to do the same thing with Judah. 2 Kings 18:13 through 17. What was Judah to do? Surrender to the Assyrians? Put their trust in an alliance with Egypt to the south? Isaiah's message was simple. The source of true deliverance was in the Lord. Chapters 28 and 29 reveals the Lord's design for Ephraim, Israel, and Ariel, Jerusalem. Ephraim's crown of pride would fade, while the Lord would be a crown of glory for the remnant. Led to error by intoxicating drink, Israel's leaders had not been able to benefit from God's instructions. As for Ariel, her leaders, like Ahaz, had trusted in a false confidence for deliverance. God would instead lay in Zion a sure foundation based on justice and righteousness, a shadow of Christ. See 1 Peter 2:4 through 8. Removing their false and inadequate confidences, God would have Ariel besieged, but then her enemy mysteriously defeated. The house of Jacob would again fear the God of Israel, and those who erred and complained would come to understand and learn the ways of God. In chapters 30 through 31, we find the desire to create alliances with Egypt denounced. Confidence in Egypt was futile, and those who trusted in her would be judged. On the other hand, God would be gracious and merciful to those who trusted in Him. As God would judge the nations, including Assyria, it was folly to trust in Egypt with her chariots and horsemen. God would deliver Jerusalem Himself, having Assyria fall by a sword, not of man, fleeing with fear. See 37:36 through 39. Chapter 32 describes the coming of a new regime in which a king will reign in righteousness and his princes in justice. It will be preceded by difficult times, but the work of righteousness will produce peace, quietness, and assurance. Some think there may have been an initial reference to Hezekiah, but virtually all believe its ultimate reference is to the coming of the Messiah. Chapter 33 depicts how the plunderer Assyria will be defeated while the plundered Judah looks to the Lord for deliverance and salvation. The Lord will indeed intervene with His might, and Zion, Jerusalem, will be made a quiet and secure home. Assyria's plunder will be divided, while God's people will be healed and forgiven. Chapters 34 and 35 contain a fitting conclusion to the prophecies delivered by Isaiah during the Assyrian period. It is a beautiful poem consisting of two parts, both of which proclaim the sovereignty of God. God's sovereignty would be manifested in His judgment on the nations of the world, with a focus on His judgment on Edom. In particular, His sovereignty would then be manifested in His salvation for Zion, in which the land will be transformed, and the redeemed traveling to Zion will with singing and everlasting joy. While some might see an initial fulfillment with the deliverance from Assyria or Babylonian oppression, its ultimate fulfillment is likely messianic. The prophecy before us I regard as a kind of summing up or recapitulation of all that He had delivered, and the general idea is that the people of God would be delivered from all their foes, and a happier time under the Messiah would succeed all their calamities. This he had expressed often in the particular phrases. Here he expresses it in a summary and condensed manner. This ends Isaiah chapters 28 through 35, the source of true deliverance.